So in today's video, we're going to be doing a VOD review of Benjyfishy, Matsoe, and Umplify. These guys placed second in the recent Europe Grand Finals for Week 2 of Trio FNCS. They obviously qualified to the heats, and they played very, very well. They won 2 out of the 6 games, and I'm basically going to be doing a VOD review of the game that they won with 7 kills. They played extremely well. I'm going to be going over their rotations, their loot paths, and just generally how they play together as a trio. These guys, I am ranking them very highly in order to win FNCS. I think that they're going to perform very well. So yeah, be sure to stay through the entire video, and please consider using code ZANADAFN if you guys want to support me. So going right into it, as you guys can see, these guys land near Hydro Dam. I'm going to forward a little bit. These guys do land near Hydro Dam, Flush Factory, and Slurpy Swamp. But as you guys can see, Benjyfishy, Matsoe, and Umplify, 2 of them, which is in this situation, Matsoe and Benjyfishy, will go and take the Slurp Truck so that the Slurpy team cannot get it before they can. And as you can see, Benjy lands on it and then breaks it in order for them to get it. So as you guys can see, Benjyfishy is killing this NPC who drops you RPG, and basically RPG is going to have really good high ground control during endgame, and it's a big advantage. So this drop spot's very powerful in terms of loot. So obviously they have the RPG now, and they can still purchase a golden charge from this NPC. So that's a really useful thing about this drop. As you guys can see, they do land Hydro Dam and Flush Factory area. So going a bit more in depth about where exactly they land, basically they have control of this entire area, which includes the gas station, it includes Hydro Dam, and it also includes Flush Factory. They have a lot of chests in this area. I'm pretty sure in total it's like maybe 15 or something, and they also have the Henchman Crate and the Slurp Truck. I forgot to include that a little bit. Let me just include that. Realistically though, this drop spot is extremely good for trios that want to loot quickly and want to get good loot while doing so. They obviously have the RPG and the AK, but they also have stuff from this Henchman Crate and a bunch of fish that they can fish around this little area. So it's a very good loot location. What will happen most of the time is Umplify will land here while Benjy and Matsoe grab the Slurp Truck, and then Benjy will go to Flush Factory. Matsoe will loot this area along with this area, and what will happen after that is basically they're going to meet up around here and then decide what their rotation is going to be depending on the zone. So as you guys can see, they're just looting up pretty normally. I'm gonna skip this part because it's not as important, but they're looting up pretty normally. They're looting efficiently. I've gone over how to loot efficiently in my early game video. If you guys want to check that out, it's in the top right corner. Realistically though, they loot quickly, and Benjy obviously doesn't have a shotgun, but he will have one soon, realistically. So Benjy comes across this NPC. This NPC is an NPC that can upgrade, and you can also buy weapons from him sometime. So this is a pretty good place to land also because of this NPC. Benjy obviously has a purple charge, and they can also upgrade their shotgun if they ever need to. As you guys can see, Benjyfishy is scouting out Slurpy Swamp right now because obviously a team lands there, and basically he's trying to give his team communications about if that team is looking at them or not. So for the most part, depending on where the zone is, they might rotate into Slurpy in order to get some surge tags if they need it. They might sometimes just go to zone and look for surge tag. It really depends on where zone is. Right now, you guys can see that the zone is towards Misty Meadows and Catty Corner area. So for right now, they're trying to go into Slurpy in order to get surge tags so that they'll be good for Storm Surge later in the game. So as you guys can see, Matsoe and Benjyfishy are rotating upwards right here. They're trying to get a cheeky snipe in order for Storm Surge. And as you guys eventually see, Matsoe does eventually end up getting a perfect angle on one of these teams. And he eventually ends up getting a really good snipe onto one of them. As you guys can see, these players are just fighting pretty normally. And Matsoe is kind of crouching behind a wall. This is basically what their surge route is. And it's a pretty good surge route because they get a bunch of snipes on this route. And this snipe from Matsoe, sorry, it actually saved them on Storm Surge this game, I like to think. So as you guys can see, and they look for a snipe on him, and Matsoe snipes, and he gets the kill right about now. And then he gets the kill, and that's really good. And then obviously his team starts freaking out because that's amazing. And as you guys can see, they have the RPG, so they can 100% secure the kill with at least 1 or 2 rockets. And continuing on here, they eventually get their finish. They get a bunch of Storm Surge from it, and then they're pretty good right here, so they decide that they want to go and get the loot, and then kind of just dip out of the area because they don't want to get, third-partied by other teams that are potentially around them. As you guys can see here, they're trying to rotate out in the car because they have their surge for the 70 surge or for the 50 surge, and basically they're just trying to get out and play a bit more passive because obviously right here they're about 2 points off qualification in this little area, so he's just trying to pick up Matsoe and Umplify right here. So what they do here is they stay in zone and they kind of farm off of these slurp barrels that are around the area rather than rotating immediately in order to kind of like just kind of find out where the next zone goes and kind of plan their rotates in more, with more time. And basically, Storm is kind of like a shield. It shields you from the rest of the island because nobody expects you to be in Storm, and if you are in Storm, nobody goes in there to find you specifically. So as you guys can see, they're just using these slurp barrels in order to, stay alive for a little bit. So continuing on here, they did see a person, but they didn't try to engage that person because there is another team deeper in Storm that they don't really want to get involved with. And as you guys can see, they're trying to rotate into zone now. So once they eventually get into zone, they're trying to plan their rotates, and as you guys can see, Matsoe says that they should go up on top of the mountain and rotate kind of dead side into Misty area and closer to Catty Corner area because that's where the zone does pull. So obviously they have a bounty placed on them from Misty Meadows, and they're trying to kind of like, get out of the area a little bit. They're trying to kind of see where the teams around them are and if they're going to get held or not. So continuing on right here, you guys can see that their rotate is a little bit onto the water. They're trying to rotate away from all of the teams that are behind them, and they're trying to just get into a better position overall. Obviously, they're pretty good on mats here. They also have the RPG and the Harpoon in order to get some plays with that, and there's a couple of teams around them, but they're not necessarily looking to engage right now. So they rotate onto the land across of the river just because they wanted to see if they can get some eliminations, but they didn't end up securing anything. And now they're trying to get over to Catty Corner in order to get into zone. This is probably the most important part of their match, which is their rotates that I want to point out. As you guys can see here, they're rotating along the congested side of zone. This is where a lot of players are right now, and everybody can beam them very easily. So this is a bit risky. However, they do get the rotation off just because of their good awareness and their good, movements right here. So they just don't get sniped, and they're playing pretty smart. As you guys can see, what they do is they go around, so they go around towards Camp Cod area, and they're trying to use old builds in order to get up the mountain. And this is, I'd argue, one of the best rotations I've seen from this team in a while now. So as you guys can see, they're trying to rotate up this mountain so that they don't get beamed by other teams using this team's old builds. It's a very good way to rotate. If you guys see old builds that are just, built, you can just, go left or right side in this situation in order to kind of get that free rotate. So as you guys can see, they're going right side because they want to try to, get closer to zone. And they're also assuming that zone will pull closer to the ocean just because it just, generally does. If you play enough Fortnite competitive, then you kind of learn what zone patterns are. But, even though Umplify gets beamed, they're still in a pretty good spot right here. So obviously they're chilling here on the edge of zone, and zone does pull far, which is kind of unlucky, but, you can't really do too much about that. So their idea is to rotate right side, which is a very good rotation here. So as you guys can see, they're once again rotating the right side all the way up the mountain. Benjy's obviously looking behind and trying to cover behind. Their goal right here is to just stay as low as possible and just not really attract too much attention to themselves and kind of just rotate to the very, very dead side of the islands, So as you guys can see, they decided Chug Splash here. There's really no harm with using that utility for a certain small thing. It's really just focusing on what's important here. As you guys can see, they need a little bit of mats, so Benjy decides to refarm all these trees, and they try to just, play a little bit safer. And they obviously acknowledge that there's a team behind them in which they can get surge tags and potentially a kill with. So Benjy obviously hides in a cone here in order to try to get the surprise attack onto the team behind them. So Benjy's chilling in the cone and he sees the kid and he decides to try and shoot at him and he gets a big tag on them. That basically solidifies their surge and they decide to rotate after this. So as you guys can see, there's only 52 players alive, so they don't really need to worry about their surge now. And basically they're trying to get up the mountain and focus fully on rotates. So they're basically trying to get up as high as they possibly can, just in case in the event where zone does pull up the mountain, they can easily get up there without, too much difficulty. So as you guys can see, they're right up near the edge of the mountain, and they do get a little bit beamed, but that's really okay because they have meds to work with here. And as you guys can see, they do get zone. Zone pulls pretty close to them and to the point where they can basically walk inside with maybe a couple of tarps. And what they're trying to do here is they're trying to play passive, they're trying to scout out their rotates, and they're trying to basically attract the least amount of attention to themselves. So here they make a plan to try to play a little bit higher up so that they can inevitably take high ground with that RPG that they have. They obviously have decent mats, so they bounce her ahead of zone, and they try to base up on one of the higher layers in order to try and, take high ground later in the game. So right here, one zone later, they try to knock out high ground, and they do inevitably get the knockout, which is pretty decent. And they obviously knock him out, and then they get the kill, I'm pretty sure. But, actually, no, they don't get the kill. I'm sorry to say that, but they don't get the kill. They're just trying to, screw with high ground a little bit in order to kind of, like, take it later in the game. They obviously still have the 2 rockets and the harpoon gun, so taking high ground would be a bit easier. So Benjy RPGs right here, and they do take high ground really quickly here. Obviously, there's other teams looking for high ground, but they try to just keep building up and keep, going up very quickly in order to, get that high ground. So as you see, Matsoe goes up here, and they finally have height. They officially have the highest ground in the lobby, and as you guys can see, many people die in this zone simply because of how much verticalness, like, it goes all the way up on top of this mountain so that the most people won't be able to, survive for this zone. So this is a pretty good position they're in. Now Benjy has decent mats, and they're just trying to, like, solidify that position on height by RPGing, harpooning, and spraying down with their ARs. As you can see, they're attaching to the mountain so that they won't get shot out, and they're obviously calling people behind them so that they'll keep that high ground position. Benjy gets a nice RPG onto that player, and what happens here is Benjy does get stuck in zone for a second, but he luckily gets a kill in order to make him survive right here. He gets this kill onto Vettel right here. Vettel's actually an insane pro, so that's a fantastic kill. And now he has mats in order to get up to his team. And now they're basically vibing very hard. As you guys can see, I'm going to actually pause it really quickly. As you guys can see, There's 11 players left. They have 4 kills and Benjy has 1 himself. As you guys can see, all these players are down here, like right there. Some are probably below this layer as well. So what they're trying to do here is they're basically trying to get the rest of the kills and win the game with the most points. This is basically what qualifies them. This is the qualifying game of this team. And they played extremely well, so they would definitely deserved it. And at this point, they're the only trio left in the lobby for the most part. So they're just trying to get a lot of kills in order to solidify the win. There's a bunch of solos, a bunch of duos possibly. And eventually, once they do get the win, they're very, you know, like, it's very kind of obvious that they're going to win the game. If that makes any sense. So he RPGs him right here. He gets the knock on him as once he falls down eventually. He takes a lot of fall damage, so it's very useful. So he drops AR ammo for his teammate, and then they're just trying to spray down and get the rest of the kills in the lobby in order to obviously get the points. Once again, I already said that, so it's basically just textbook high ground gameplay right here. So right here, I think they already know that they've won the game, just simply because of how high they are compared to their enemies and how much mats they have right here. And they're looking for tags on these kids in order to get the eliminations. And they obviously get that elimination. And then Benjy's trying to drop for a little bit of kills, and he obviously sees the last player. It's a 3v1 right here, and then they eventually win the game. So that was a fantastic game. That was very good high ground gameplay, very good rotations. As you guys can see, they tried to hug the side of the mountain and get those dead side rotates in order to succeed and win this game. If you guys did enjoy this video, please consider dropping a like and subscribing to the channel. Be sure to use code SonataFN, and if you guys want to see more VOD reviews, please let me know in the comments. But that's about it for this video, guys. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye, guys.